Uh, it's interesting. Everything about the southern border, China, fentanyl. A guy I've known for years. Uh, he just passed away from it. So, yeah, southern border's got to get closed. I don't care what y'all say.
Of the nation's capital, demanding not only a ceasefire in the conflict, but also an end
Ridiculous.
to any U.S. military aid to Israel. It all comes at a tense time for Congress. There's a brand new Speaker of the House looking to make his first mark, decoupling Israel and Ukraine aid, a move that appears to face a certain death in the Senate. And yet another government shutdown is looming. In a moment, we will speak exclusively with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. But first, we turn to Fox News foreign correspondent Trey Yingst on the ground at the Israel-Gaza border with the very latest. And I understand, Trey, you may have some incoming fire there.
Yeah, Shannon, you don't see me on camera right now. We just had sirens sounding, and in this location, we've got about 10 seconds to get to cover. This area has taken a number of direct hits over the past several days. But this comes as the fighting rages on inside Gaza, nearly a month into the war between Israel and Hamas. We got a first-hand look at the battles unfolding inside the Gaza Strip. Israeli bulldozers, flanked by tanks and machine guns, push deep into Gaza. Nearly a month into the war, and more than a week into the ground invasion, these troops must fight for each block of territory. For the first time since the conflict erupted, the Israel Defense Forces are taking a small group of journalists into the fight. Right now we're with the Israeli military in an armored personnel carrier. The Israelis have cut the Gaza Strip in half. They've fought their way to the Mediterranean Sea and encircled Gaza City. They're waiting now for the orders to go farther in. Seconds after arriving on the outskirts of Gaza City, the crack of gunfire pierces the air.
So right now we are in the...
Israeli troops move carefully over mounds of dirt and debris. They understand Hamas can target them from above and below ground.
We find 2 tunnels, and now we're going to destroy them.
While Israeli troops focus their efforts on destroying the extensive tunnel network of Hamas, Palestinian militants are still able to surprise and ambush them. Right now, the Israelis are engaged in a gun battle with Hamas militants inside the Gaza Strip. They are working at this hour to go block by block and clear this area, trying to get to the Mediterranean Sea, effectively cutting the northern part of Gaza from the southern part. As this is taking place, they've been ambushed. They've lost more than 24 of their own soldiers, and the battle continues. 8 days ago, the Israelis invaded with 2 missions: to hunt down Hamas leadership and bring hostages home. The latter is proving to be far more difficult.
We know that the hostages are most of them inside Gaza City, and not inside the suburbs area, but inside the tunnels underneath the city. We're doing everything we can in order to free them.
Lieutenant Colonel Gilad Pasternak is fighting his 3rd war. The 38-year-old is in charge of 5 battalions. His soldiers include those like Jeremiah Wallace, who's originally from Philadelphia. He moved to Israel and joined the army. Now he points to why the war began.
We're here, we're coming after terrorists, we're coming after people that came into Israel. They killed civilians, killed men, women, children, kidnapped them as well. And we're coming back for them, and we won't leave until that's taken care of.
Something that struck me was the level of destruction inside Gaza. Currently, there are more than 1 million Palestinian civilians internally displaced. Many of them have no homes to return to. Shannon.
Trey Yingst, thank you to you and your team for taking us places no one else is going. We so appreciate it. Thank you, Trey. Fox News' Alexandria Hoff is traveling with the president. She joins us now from Rehoboth. Climb a wrought iron gate. We are told no arrests were made. The demonstrators were voicing anger for the president's support of Israel and refusal to back a ceasefire. Instead, the administration has been pushing for a humanitarian pause in military operations in Gaza to get aid in and hostages out. The president was asked about that yesterday.
Mr. President, any progress on the humanitarian pause? Yes.
president gave a yes there, thumbs up. The idea was seemingly, though, rejected by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited Tel Aviv on Friday. Israeli officials want Hamas to release the some 240 hostages first. And Blinken dismissed calls this weekend by Arab leaders for the U.S. to back an immediate ceasefire.
And that Israel would stop hindering the delivery of humanitarian aid.
It's our view that a ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat.
On the health ministry in Gaza, the Palestinian death toll is approaching 10,000. On the ground, the Israeli military says it has surrounded Gaza City, considered the stronghold of Hamas. Several cities in Israel on high alert Saturday as another barrage of rockets fired from Gaza were intercepted by air defense systems. Thousands of Israelis gathering in Tel Aviv demanding immediate release of the hostages held by Hamas, carrying Israeli flags and pictures of captives. Hundreds of protesters joined relatives of the hostages in the demonstrations. Hundreds also gathered outside Netanyahu's official residence, calling on the Israeli leader to resign in the wake of the October 7th attack. Netanyahu says officials, including himself, will have to answer to the public, but not until after the end of the war. In Paris, thousands of protesters calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza amid the growing humanitarian crisis there, and people waving Palestinian flags as they march through the streets of the French capital. The demonstrators also denouncing French President Emmanuel Macron for not calling for a ceasefire. The city's police chief authorized the march, but vowed that any behavior deemed anti-Semitic or sympathetic toward terrorism would not be tolerated. Thousands of Iranians.
Who we are, and I think it governs and helps govern my decisions and how I lead.
Well, the majority of Americans now say they're living paycheck to paycheck, so a lot of folks in the same boat as they try to figure out this economy. Speaker, we're wishing you the best and trying to keep the House running and the country functioning. Thank you, sir.
Veto an only Israel bill. I think that we've made that clear.
Now, the House did reject a more broad $106 billion aid package that was requested by the president. That include aid for Ukraine as well, Shannon. All right, Alexandria Hoff with the president in Delaware. Alex, thank you. Joining us now is the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Hey, Shannon, great to be with you.
All right, I want to play a little bit more of what happened here in Washington yesterday. Estimates are that this pro-Palestine rally was up to 100,000 people. We've got images of it and of what transpired last night when some of them took to the White House, defacing one of the gates there, climbing onto the gates. Are you surprised at all by the amount that we've seen of this kind of response? And I have, to be fair, a lot of people I saw in that rally yesterday were very much worried about civilian lives that are being lost in Gaza. But there were others who were saying things that were clearly indicative of making sure that Israel no longer exists on the world map.
Yes, no, it is surprising to see this level of anti-Semitism that has sprung up around the country. Apparently, it's been dormant for a while, but this has given rise to that, and we're deeply concerned about it. The opening of the program today, Shannon, I think gave a great snapshot of the crisis that Israel faces, and that's why right out of the blocks, as soon as I became Speaker, within the hour, we passed a resolution to make clear that Congress stands by our great friend in that region. We always will. And then we passed, as you saw, our first priority is an emergency immediate funding aid to Israel so that they can defeat Hamas and protect and continue as a nation. That's what's at stake. I spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu on Saturday evening a week ago, and he said this is a battle between good versus evil, light versus darkness. I could not agree more, and I think the whole world can see that.
So you passed the standalone measure, but the man who runs the Senate, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, has this to say about what you passed in the House.
The proposal is simply not a serious one, and worse, it still wastes precious time at a moment when we need to help Israel, Ukraine, and send humanitarian aid to Gaza, ASAP.
And it's not just Democrats. This is the headline from The Hill. McConnell and Speaker Johnson sharply divided on the year-end strategy. So Democrat and Republican leaders over in the Senate say there's no way the standalone measure gets anywhere. The White House has said it would veto it anyway. So with time of the essence, the urgency here, Why waste time on a measure that has almost zero chance of actually aiding the Israeli people?
Shannon, it's really surprising to hear Senator Schumer say that it's not a serious proposal. It's exactly what was requested, $14.5 billion. What they don't like is that in the House, we're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources. We offset that spending. Instead of printing new dollars or borrowing it from another nation to send over to fulfill our obligations and help our ally, we want to pay for it. What a concept. We're trying to change how Washington works. And so by taking that money from this giant fund, over $67 billion that's sitting there to build up the IRS, we weighed those priorities and said, you know what? It's more important to protect Israel right now than it is to hire more IRS agents. Apparently, Senator Schumer disagrees with that, but I'll take that debate to the American people all day long.
Well, and he's pointing, as others are, to the Congressional Budget Office and
Don't need more IRS agents.
Actually, if you take that funding from the IRS, it's going to add billions to the deficit because you cut IRS personnel. They're not then collecting that revenue that they bring in.
That's bullshit.
One of your House colleagues, Democrat Brendan Boyle, put it this way. He says, you are prioritizing, quote, deficit-busting tax giveaways for the wealthy over helping Israel.
Look, only in Washington can you cut funding, add a pay-for to a new spending measure, and they say that it's terrible for the deficit. Listen, we're trying to take care of our priorities, and we will. We know that these other important measures are right there on the table, and we're working through it hour by hour, day by day, and we're going to meet those obligations. But we have to do these things in the proper order, and we are committed to changing how Washington works. I think you see a united and energized House Republican conference. All of our members are working together in good faith, trying to solve these great challenges that we face, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to do that. But we are going to also change the trajectory we're on. Shannon, right now we have a $33.6 trillion federal debt. Just last week, the Treasury Department of the Biden administration announced that we're going to have to borrow over $1.5 trillion over the next 2 quarters, 6 months, to continue our operation as a government. This is not a sustainable track. We can take care of our obligations, and we can do it in a responsible manner, and that's what we're committed to.
Okay, so there's been talk that you want to quickly offer up Ukraine aid, of course in a separate measure, potentially tying the U.S. border and security issues to that. A group of Democrats say this, and there's
to inform selected targets, precise targets, want them to use precision-guided weapon systems with smaller diameter bombs so they really hit the people they're going after. And then we want them also to be able to show how not just Israel, but the entire world community wants to provide basic necessities to Palestinian people. This is deliver a blow, not just tactically, but also politically to Hamas. And the goal is to end that bridge war, because that's central. Hamas does want to destroy Israel.
Let's talk about aid, because you heard the speaker at the beginning of the show talking about Israel standalone aid was what he could get passed in the House. That was what the appetite was there. We know it's different over in the Senate. But it's interesting that Gallup poll shows now that Americans are really skeptical of providing unlimited continued aid to Ukraine. The number of Americans who say the U.S. is doing too much in that particular conflict has jumped 12 points since just June. Do you worry that tagging those things together may slow down as Ukraine is less popular, the aid actually getting to Israel in a more timely fashion?
No, I don't. I think on the Senate side, there's strong bipartisan support for aid not only to Israel, but to Ukraine, and immediately. Ukraine is running down its resources. They're in the midst of a very serious conflict with the Russians. The Russians
jumped the most, with robberies more than 64% more likely after the time change, and vehicle thefts 61% more likely. Apparently, it is daylight in the evening hours that makes the difference. Most criminals prefer the cover of darkness to commit criminal acts, especially street crimes. An earlier study from 2012 found that robberies, murders, and rapes all decreased at dusk following the spring forward time change. A 2017 study found that assaults in large American cities rose right after daylight saving time ended. In addition, it is believed that year-round daylight saving time would decrease car accidents, have economic advantages, benefit farmers, and reduce seasonal depression. All right, from that we switch gears. Vehicle. Commenters claim it was used only for a music video and never driven on public roads. That doesn't explain, however, the sightings in multiple counties. Also unexplained is why someone over the age of 14 would think that would be cool. All right, what do Janesville, Wisconsin, and Athens, Greece have in common? They're both the bomb. Well, at least last week they were, for a little while anyway. Both locations were at risk of explosions after finding unexploded military bombs. In Athens, it was at a major construction project where workers unearthed a 500-pound bomb that was left over from World War II. Traffic had to be halted in the area, and nearby apartment blocks had to be evacuated for a couple of hours while Greek Army specialists came in to deal with the situation. They were able to safely disarm the bomb without detonating it. The new coastal development project lies near what was an airport until a couple of years ago when it was relocated. It had also been an airfield during World War II. All right, from there, we go to Janesville, Wisconsin, where another bomb situation arose, this one at a Goodwill thrift shop. A live cluster bomblet and some ammunition turned up in a donation. It was discovered by an employee who was taking inventory of the donations.
What
the
the
store
hell?
and surrounding area had to be evacuated while the bomb squad was called in to remove the detonatable donation. Janesville police have been trying to track down who donated the bomblet to the charity-run thrift store. The bomblet would have been part of a cluster bomb left over from the military.
Session has sent him to the operating table. The Meta platform CEO posting on social media that he told one of the Lakers in his league about training for a fight early next year.
Oh
This
boy.
posted on Instagram shows the tech billionaire lying in a hospital bed with his left knee elevated, bandaged and fit with a brace. Zuckerberg says he was training for a competitive MMA fight. Facebook founder and Elon Musk grabbing headlines this summer after the two tech moguls seemingly agreed to an in-person face-off that never actually materialized.